Hi everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I put this program together because I just see too much ego in the world and not enough self-esteem, and I want to help change that. And I really feel like this is my life's work, and this is what I'm here to do, is to talk about self-esteem and give people the tools they need in order to feel better about who they are and where they fit in the world. So this program is here for you, free of charge. And I hope you get as much out of it as I did out of putting it together. One thing I would like to mention though, if you feel like you would like to support my efforts in some way, there are a lot of ways to do that. This is my life's work. So feel free, if you can afford $1, $5, $10, that's fine. Whatever it is, $100. But there's no obligation whatsoever in order to enjoy this program. And why this came about and why I'm doing this basically for free. I've been a guest on a number of podcasts recently, and one of the things that I keep saying is if I had a choice of reaching 1 million people or making $1 million, I would rather reach 1 million people. So this is my way of walking my walk rather than just talking my talk and offering it to you for free. So I hope you enjoy the program and get a bunch out of this, and let's spread the message that self-esteem over ego, that we over me is the way to go. And if you'd like to go to my website, you can go there. There's a lot more information and other resources for you. And I really wish you well on your journey. And if there's more I can do to support you, there are many ways. Go to my website and you'll find out. So enjoy the program. Take care. Hi everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here. Before I get started with this presentation, just want you to know I've been doing this for about 30 years and it's been evolving over time. But I want to tell you a little bit about me and how I got started putting this together, just to kind of give you some perspective that this comes from personal experience as well as my professional experience and my education and all that it mostly comes from the personal. I like to tell people that I might have a master's degree in counseling, but I have a PhD in personal experience. So that's where this comes from. So, to go back to the beginning, I was raised in a really great family. I mean, my mom and dad are still around. I love them dearly. I talk to them often. They're an important part of my life. And we were a really close family all growing up. But what I realized as I was growing up is that while we had a lot of stuff and a lot of things were going on, Dad became more and more successful with his business. The houses got bigger, the cars got bigger, the vacations became grander. So on the outside, it seemed like I had everything a person could possibly want. And on the inside, I was dying. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like what I did was enough. Now, part of that is due to the fact that I have ADD, and it comes along with an anxiety disorder, which I didn't know. So I grew up with this. So all through school, I remember hearing from my teachers, Randy, you're so smart. Why don't you just apply yourself? And I remember my thought was, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not able to do this. And then in high school, we moved over to private schools, and the academic pressure became even more, and I felt more out of touch with who I was, and I felt like I was comparing myself with all these people that are getting A's and B's and answering questions in class, and I was like, whoa, how do you know that? And I felt less than, and I'd go out for the sports teams, and I'd make the team, but I wasn't very good athletically, and I always felt less than. So I found my solace, like many teenagers will drink and experiment with drugs, and I did that, and I started using alcohol and marijuana at like 14, 15, 16 years old. And by the time I was 17, I was experimenting with cocaine, and that's when I just found the one thing that I loved more than anything else. So I started using more and more. My college career was all about one disaster after the next, to the point where by the time I was 24 years old, I had been expelled from college twice. On May 16th, 1984, this was like a significant moment in my life. I just got the letter from San Diego State University saying that I was expelled for the second time. A month before that, I got fired from my job delivering pizza. And I thought, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I can't stay in school. My parents are sick of all my stuff. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't connect that the drugs and alcohol and the choices that I was making were putting me in this position where I was painting myself into a corner. I didn't see that. So I thought my only way out is to go out. So I thought, how am I going to do this? And I thought, you know what? Okay, I'll leave a note on my bedroom door that says, don't come in, just call 911. And I'll sit in the bathtub so that I don't make a mess for anyone to have to clean up. And I went over to my closet and got out my scuba dive bag, because I'm a diver. And I opened up the bag and I got out a dive knife and I sat on my bed and I thought, okay, I know that if you're serious, you cut down and not across. And then I thought, well, can you cut one and switch hands and then cut the other? I don't know. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just slice open my throat instead, and one good slice and I'm out of here. And I stood up and I went over to the bathroom mirror to see where to start. And I made eye contact, and it was like for the first time, and I looked at myself and it was like, what are you doing? And I thought, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't know what to do. And back then, we didn't have all these resources available. You know, this is back in 1984. And I thought, I don't know what to do. And it was at that moment, I remember seeing a billboard that said, do you have a drug problem? If so, call 1-800-BE-SOBER. And it took me 45 minutes to reach out and make that phone call, but I finally did. And a woman answered the phone that morning at about 1 or 2 a.m. And I still remember she picked up the phone, Be Sober Hotline, and I said, yeah, hi, I think I have a drug problem. And she said, well, hey, I've been there too. My name is, I forgot what her name is. And we talked for about an hour and a half. And at the end of that conversation, I realized I had the one thing that I was missing, and that was hope. That's what she gave me. So for all of you out there who do volunteer work and you're wondering if what you're doing even makes a difference, I'm here to tell you that what you do does make a difference, because I reached out to a volunteer who happened to be there that night. And because of that, I started on this new path, and it started snowballing to the point where today I get to be here doing a self-esteem workshop for you. So you never know where life is going to take you. In my darkest moments, I found my light. And I started getting sober, and I found a therapist who could help me. And I found places where I could go and be with other people that had experienced the same thing that I had. And by sharing my experience, I started getting better. And I went back to school, and I got my bachelor's degree, and I got my master's degree. And I actually had some jobs for a while working at colleges. And I remember I got my first college job, and I thought, whoa, wait a minute, I'm gonna go work for a college? They used to throw me out of colleges. Now I'm gonna go work for one? Well, now I've actually worked for 4 institutions of higher education. And I've had my own business before. I was a CEO of a corporation, and I had 21 employees in 2 different states. And I've been a therapist in private practice. And I've been a drummer in a rock band. And that was a lot of fun. And now I get to be a professional speaker and an author. You know, I remember one of my high school teachers, Miss Stevens, in 11th grade English, she said, Randy, your stories are so good. I think you could be a writer one day. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, right, me be a writer? And now I'm a writer, and now I have a book. I actually have 2 books. So anything is possible if you just get out of your own way. And that's what I want to talk about today, is how to get out of your own way, build your self-esteem so that you can feel better about who you are, find your path, be happy on your path, learn how to have fun. Today, as we're shooting this today, you know, I was talking to the videographer before we got started, and I said, okay, when we get started here, we have to remember rule number one, have fun. Because I like to have fun with what I do. You know, life can be a grind sometimes, life can be difficult, but when I do things like this, I want it to be fun, and that's what it's about. So I wanted to take you through this self-esteem workshop that I've been doing, because as I wrote my book and I've been doing this presentation, I get so much feedback from people saying how much this has enhanced their life and helped them. So now I want to share it with more people. You know, especially right now in this age of COVID-19 and we're all at home, you know, one of the things that I keep telling people is that if you can't go outside, go inside. And now is the time to take a look at those things that you want to improve in yourself. And what I want to do here is give you some tools that you're going to be able to do that. And that's the goal of this whole thing. So let's get into it and let's talk about this whole self-esteem thing, because I define it in a different way. So first thing I want to do is define what I see self-esteem as being and what I see self-esteem as not being. So it starts with, I have this theory that our society reinforces the idea that self-esteem and ego are the same thing. That if you make a certain amount of money, or you drive a certain car, if you have a certain label on the back of your shirt, if you have a certain number on a scale, then that means that you have worth. And the more value those things have externally, the more value you have. You know, Madison Avenue spends billions of dollars making you believe that if you have this right thing, you're going to feel better about who you are. And you know what sparked me on this whole thing, I remember I was sitting home watching TV one time, and this commercial came up, and it said, do you want to feel better about who you are? Buy our product, grow more hair, and you'll have more self-esteem. And I remember thinking, what? Wait, my self-esteem depends on how many follicles I have? I mean, that just sounded ridiculous. So I came up with this theory that, you know, we keep hearing these messages about what we have is who we are. And then I remembered all those things about growing up in this family where I had all this stuff, but I didn't like who I was. So I realized that ego and self-esteem are not connected. In fact, ego and self-esteem are on opposite ends of a continuum. They're opposites. When we reinforce our ego, we're denying our self-esteem. When we build our self-esteem, we deny our ego. So what I want to talk about today, I want to give you some tools that you can use to move down the continuum to have a better sense of self-esteem and let go of ego. You know, I remember years ago, we went on this cruise and we went to this area that was very impoverished. I mean, dirt floors in the village and people not wearing shoes or wearing sandals. But what I noticed, they all had smiles on their face. And it seemed very genuine. They were happy with their surroundings. And they loved when the cruise people came in, because they were selling these amazing trinkets and artifacts and things that they had built and made, and they were so grateful to get $2 for this thing that they made. And I remember one person, I'm like, can I give you $10? And they're like, no, $2. And it was amazing to me that these people, from our society's standpoint, have nothing, but they felt like they had everything. So that really helped me to realize that self-esteem and your happiness really has nothing to do with what you have. So ego and self-esteem are on opposite ends of this continuum. And let me give you some defining characteristics of this. Ego is very fragile, whereas self-esteem is very solid. Ego, you can take someone's ego away, or you can give someone ego. I mean, you can tell someone, oh my God, did you lose some weight? Man, you look really good. Oh, thank you. God, I appreciate that. And they lose weight because they want to look good. Or you can take it away. You can say, oh wow, you really think that outfit works together? Yeah, not really. And you can take their ego away. So it's very fragile and can be manipulated one way or the other depending on what's going on. Now, self-esteem is solid. You know, when I lose weight, it's not about the number on a scale or looking good. To me, it's about making my heart healthy. I love being able to walk downstairs and not being out of breath. I like that I'm 60 years old and I don't feel like I look 60. When I tell people I'm 60, they're like, what? So I like that because I like keeping myself healthy. So that's why I look good. You know, I remember when I used to do this presentation at conferences, and I'd get evaluations afterwards. And if there were 100 people in the audience, I'd get the evaluations. 80 of the evaluations would say, oh my God, this was amazing. You did such a great job. I learned so much. This was awesome. And 10 would say, I've heard it before. And 10 would say, oh my God, that really sucked. That was a total waste of my time. And I remember I used to look at those and go, oh my God, 10 people didn't like it. Now that was my ego talking. Because self-esteem says, wow, I'm so glad that I was able to reach 80 people at this presentation and help them to get something out of it. So that's the self-esteem versus ego thing. One is fragile, one is solid. Another thing that I've realized about the difference between them, ego is about all the outside stuff. Number on a scale, type of car, label, all of those outside things I've talked about, whereas self-esteem is about the inside. How do you feel about yourself? First thing in the morning when you wake up and you look in the mirror, how do you feel about that person looking back at you? That is your level of self-esteem. Now, when I say that, you might think, oh, geez, I don't think I have a lot of self-esteem. But that's okay, because this is about a starting point. This is about where are you today and where is it you want to be. So as we move up and down that continuum, my goal, even though I've raised my self-esteem quite a bit, I know that I'll probably never get to a point where I have pure self-esteem. There's always some ego involved in some things, but I'm probably up there around the 3/4, the 80% mark. I still have a ways to go, but that's okay because I don't compare myself with anybody else anymore. I just compare me with me. So when I think about maybe some people in our society that have attained pure self-esteem, it might be people like Mother Teresa, Jesus, Gandhi, people like that. I don't ever expect myself to be at that level. But I'm also not at the other end, pure ego, where there are some people out there where it's all about me, me, me. What can you do for me? Because the ego people need that praise in order to keep them going. And any form of criticism, because ego is fragile, they just have to lash out or they have to just crumble because of it. So the whole goal of this is to help people move towards a higher sense of self-esteem and get away from the ego because it does nothing but hurt us. So that's what we want to do. Some other differentiators between ego and self-esteem is that ego tends to be something where people are cocky. Self-esteem is where they're confident. And there's a difference between being cocky and being confident. And as I say that, you're probably nodding your head thinking, oh yeah, there is a difference between that. Someone's like, oh yeah, I really studied, that was really great, I'm really awesome. That's the cocky part. Confident is, wow, I feel like I really did my best at that and it feels really good. So that's a difference between ego and self-esteem. Are you kind of getting the gist of what we're talking about here? Because as I move into the second and third parts of this, it's really important to understand that difference between the two. So again, if you have any questions, this doesn't make sense, I'm going to have my email address at the end of this. I can give it to you now, randy@randyspeaks.com. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions or comments about this. I'm happy to answer your questions or get into this a little bit further with you. I am hoping that once this whole COVID-19 thing is over, I want to get back to doing in-person workshops here in Orlando. So feel free to come on out to a workshop and really get into the depths of this presentation. But for the purposes of this program here that I'm doing for you, I just want to kind of do an overview of this so you have an idea of what you can do now to start raising your self-esteem. Okay, so we've talked about this first part, ego, self-esteem. So let's go to the next part, which is dealing with the obstacles that tend to get in our way. Because before I give you the tools on how to build self-esteem, there are a lot of things we do to keep our self-esteem down. So one of the things I like to talk about is, and I think we would all agree, that life will give us hurdles, right? Life gives us hurdles. We're living through a big hurdle right now. This is really hard. But I think what we do sometimes is we turn the hurdle into a wall. And walls are much more difficult to get over than hurdles, right? So the point of this part of the program is to take a look at the words and phrases that you use on a regular basis that turn hurdles into walls. And we use these words on a regular basis. And as I start to talk about some of these, you're going to say, oh wow, I do that. Oh my God, I use that word a lot. But the whole point here is to not beat yourself up for doing it, because right now during this, we're looking at raising your awareness to this. So if you've never looked at this before, then how would you know that it's been going on? So that's what I want to talk about. It's kind of like the story of the two fish that are swimming along in the ocean, and another fish swims by and says, hey boys, how's it going? How's the water today? And he swims by and the two fish keep swimming and one turns to the other and says, what's water? Because sometimes you're so into it that you don't even realize that it's all around you. So let's look at what water is. And water is raising self-esteem and getting rid of the obstacles that get in the way of your growth. The whole point of this presentation used to be called Becoming Your Own Best Friend. Because that's the whole point here, is for you to start treating yourself like your own best friend. Rather than beating yourself up all the time, start treating yourself like your best friend. Such as, I'll give you an example. I'd study real hard for a test when I was in college and I'd get a C on the test. And I'd get the C back and say, oh man, I can't believe I got a C. I really studied hard for that. I am so stupid. I'm such a loser. I'm just taking a seat in this class and what I'm doing doesn't even matter. And that's what I would tell myself. Oh, you're so stupid. You're such a loser. But yet, if my best friend studied real hard for a test and got a C, what would I say to my best friend? Hey, that's okay. Let's see what we can do to do better at the next one. Maybe we'll go to the teacher and find out what you can do to do better next time. You wouldn't say to your best friend, oh my God, you're so stupid. You're such a loser. I can't believe you got it. You wouldn't say that. So why is it that we say that to ourselves? Now is the time to start becoming our own best friend, giving ourselves a break. Perfection is one of those things that is a tool of the ego. Perfection has no place in a life of self-esteem. We're not supposed to be perfect beings. We are imperfect. And it's growing through the imperfections that help us to be who we are. If I never became a drug addict, I never would have gotten into recovery and I wouldn't be here right now today. So one of the worst things that could have happened to me turned out to be one of the greatest blessings. And if you look at what's going on in your life, you probably have some of those too. So let's take a look at how we can take those walls and turn them back into hurdles. So there are certain words that we use on a regular basis. The first one I want to talk about is the word can't. I can't quit smoking. I can't lose these last 10 pounds. I can't ask my boss for a raise. I can't go up and ask her out. I can't. Can't takes a hurdle and turns it into a wall. But let's look at that realistically. Let's take a look at, I can't lose these last 10 pounds. Let me ask you this. Would this presentation be any different if I was 10 pounds heavier or 10 pounds lighter? No. So why do we give ourselves such a hard time for that? Now, I can't lose these last 10 pounds. You know what the truth is? Do I want to lose these last 10 pounds? Because I've already, when I started my workout routine and eating healthier a couple years ago, I'm down probably around 20 pounds now. But I did that for the health reasons. I don't know because I don't step on a scale, but it's about the health. So whether I'm 10 pounds down or 10 pounds more, doesn't really matter. So the question is, do I want to lose the last 10 pounds? And really, the honest answer today, no, I don't. I mean, it's really hard. We moved here to Orlando a couple years ago. I'm in the land of Mickey bars and churros. I mean, it is really hard to turn all those things down. And now that I'm inside most of the time, I find myself snacking more than I used to, and I'm not able to go to the gym like I used to. So it's hard for me right now, and I'm just choosing not to. So it's not that I can't. And I don't give myself a hard time when I have ice cream after dinner or when I have an extra snack in the afternoon. I don't give myself a hard time because, again, would we give our best friend a hard time if they were doing that? No. So take that word can't. I can't quit drinking. I used to say that all the time. I can't quit doing drugs. And the choice, the actual answer is I can. Was I really willing to do what it's going to take to make that happen? And finally, it got to a point for me, I hit my bottom. It's like, I'm either going to quit or I'm going to die. And I don't want to die, so I'm going to quit. So now I've been sober almost 36 years and I haven't relapsed in that entire time. And that was really hard to do, but I can do it. And if I can do that, you can do anything you want with your life again, as long as you stay out of your own way. So that word can't, take it out of your vocabulary. Start becoming aware of how often you use that word. And when you do find yourself using it, what's the alternative? Is it, I don't want to? I'm afraid to? What is it that's behind the can't? That will take that wall and turn it into a hurdle. Do you see how that works? Yeah. So let's talk about the next one. This one is mine. Should. I should exercise more. I should study harder. I should be getting B's. I should be getting A's. I should be doing more. I should be taller. I should be thinner. I should be this. I should be that. I should. All I ended up doing was shoulding all over myself. So I need to stop doing that. Should is nothing more than a mental sledgehammer that we hit ourselves over the head with. Should says not good enough. You should be more. You should be better. You should be something other than who you are and where you're at. So we need to stop the shoulds. Take that word out of your vocabulary. It does you no positive good whatsoever. It just turns a hurdle into a wall. So no more shoulds. Do you see how dangerous and devastating that can be to your self-esteem when you're shitting on yourself all the time? So you got to get rid of that word. You don't got to, but if you want to, it's going to help. And that leads me to my next one. Gotta, or I have to. I talk to a lot of college students. Oh, I have to get up and go to class. And I think, no, you don't. You get to go to class. Do you know how many people want to go to college but don't have the means to be there? You get to be in college. Be grateful for the opportunity rather than looking at it as a burden or a chore. I have to go to work. No, you don't. You know what? Right now, a lot of people who 2 months ago you say, oh, I have to go to work, are now saying, oh, I can't wait to go back to work. I want to go back to work. If you can change your have tos into want tos, you're so much happier. Even my daughter is in 9th grade right now. And she said to me last week, she goes, Dad, I can't wait to go back to school. And I gave her the Scooby-Doo response. I was like, oh, wait, what? You want to go back to school? Yeah, I miss being there. I miss my friends. I just miss that whole atmosphere. It's amazing when you're in it. It's like, oh, I have to. But once you step away, you see all the things in your life that you really did find value in that really helped you to become the person that you are. So when we turn our have tos into want tos and get tos, then our life becomes so much happier when we move up that scale towards a higher sense of self-esteem. And that's the whole goal here. You know, I think we're actually learning a lot during these times. You know, we're learning what we don't have, but we're also learning what we do have. This time that I get to spend with my daughter is precious. I will never have this much time with her again for the rest of our lives. I remember I ran into a neighbor one time walking the dog. You know, now my dog is like, dude, really? We have to go on another walk? Yeah, we're going on another walk. So we're walking around the neighborhood, and I remember seeing this young couple with their little baby. And I said, how cool that you guys get to actually do this in the middle of the afternoon. And he said, yeah, you know, I never had an opportunity to do this before, but I'm learning that I really can work remotely now a lot more, and I'm going to be able to spend more time with my family. And I thought, oh, how awesome for you. So we can right now look at the things we don't have and aren't able to do. I got to tell you, I'm going through withdrawal, not being able to go to the Disney parks right now, but I understand because I want to keep myself healthy. I want to keep the people around me healthy, so I'm putting myself in low-risk situations, which means that 95% of the time I'm at home. And if I'm not shooting a video, or if I'm not going to the grocery store, or the farmer's market, or something like that, or a restaurant to get takeout, I'm going to be at home. So that's just the way it is, and I'm spending a lot of time getting to know me. I'm spending more time meditating. I'm spending more time, I'm going to start reading more. That's something that I really miss doing, and now I have time. So look for the things you do have. You know, be careful with, I'm bored. You know, again, boredom is a product of the ego, expecting the world to entertain us. Self-esteem is, what can I do? There's so many things. I can read a book, I can watch a movie, I can watch a documentary, I can look at silly puppy videos on YouTube. I can reach out. One of the things I've been doing is reaching out and calling friends that I haven't talked to in a long time. And it's been really cool to do that. So I get to connect with people that, you know, we might be Facebook friends. One person, she was a high school girlfriend, and I ended up talking to her. It was really cool to connect with her. I haven't seen her in a few years, and it was really awesome. So look for the things you can do rather than the things you can't do or what you should do. I mean, get rid of those. Get rid of those. No have-tos. Change them to want-tos. And then I want to talk about one of the biggest obstacles that I watch people do and use in their lives. And they just throw this word around like it actually has meaning. And this word will turn a hurdle into a wall quicker than any other word or phrase. And that word is try. I'll try to exercise more. I'll try to lose weight. I'll try to quit drinking. I'll try to quit smoking. I'll try. I've realized that trying is lying. You know, for those of you in leadership positions, if someone says to you, oh, I'll try to be there at 3 o'clock, what do you know is going to happen? They're going to be late, right? If we try to do something, it means we're not putting our full effort into it. Trying is lying. We need to take this word and get it out of our vocabulary. Do you know it really actually has no meaning whatsoever? Let's do a little exercise right now. I want to show you that try doesn't even exist. So what I'd like you to do, if you're physically able, raise your arm. And you can raise your arm, right? Okay, put your arm down. You put your arm down. Now what I want you to do is try to raise your arm. No, I didn't say do it. I said try to raise your arm. Try to raise your arm. Okay, now you're probably not doing it. Do you see that you either raise your arm or you don't raise your arm? There is no such thing as trying to raise your arm. You either do it or don't. So the alternative to try is to do the best you can. And sometimes we do the best we can and it doesn't work out. And sometimes we do the best we can and it does. So it's not trying to make something. It's not try to quit drinking. You either do it or you don't. Try to quit smoking. You either do it or you don't. And you put your best effort into it. You know, years ago, I had this business. I told you this. I was the CEO of this company. And I made a couple poor business decisions. And I had a manager in place who was not the right manager for my business. She was a disaster. And I felt bad firing her, so I just let her stay in her position. And it ended up taking my business to a place where I had to make a decision if I was going to keep it going or not. And she finally left, and it was in such a horrible state that I had to realize, am I going to keep it going or am I going to fold it? And I ended up having to fold my business, and I had to shut it down. I looked at it as a failure, and I thought, my business failed, that makes me a failure. And I realized after a while, that was my ego talking, because it was really about, what are people going to think if my business fails? What are they going to think of me? But after doing my work and talking to a lot of people and getting some support, I realized that just because my business failed does not make me a failure. And I knew that there were other things in store for me if I gave that up. So I let go of the business and I moved on. And again, here I am today doing this. I don't think I would have written my book if I was still doing that business. So I didn't try to make my business work. I did the very best I could, and it didn't work out. But because of that, I was able to launch into other things. So don't look at your failures as that's a failure which makes me a failure. It doesn't work that way. So no more trying to do something. You either do it or you don't. And it's funny, I just had this story pop in my head. I tell this sometime in my presentations. A great example of the try. For those of you who are Star Wars fans, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And there's this part in Empire Strikes Back, the second one. And Luke meets Yoda, and Yoda's teaching him the ways of the Force. And part of it is Luke's X-Wing is in the water, and Yoda says, okay, use the Force, get the X-Wing out of the water. So Luke focuses, and it comes up a little bit out of the water, and then it falls back down. And Yoda, do it again. And Luke gets it a little bit out of the water, and it falls back down. And Yoda said, do it again. And Luke says, but I'm trying. And Yoda says, no. There is do or do not. There is no try. And I thought, whoa, wisdom from a Muppet. Oh yeah. And he's absolutely right. There is do or do not. There is no try. So take this word, get it out of your vocabulary. All it does is turn hurdles into walls. Because the whole point of self-esteem is being authentic and genuine to who you are. You don't have to put up any walls. There's no pretense. There's nothing you have to put out there to other people. It's all about you being true to yourself. You know, as I was getting ready to do this presentation, I'm like, this shirt, this one, that one. And I thought, you know what? That green one is like the most comfortable shirt I own. And I love that shirt. And I was asking my daughter, you know, what shirt? And she goes, well, Dad, you love that shirt. Why don't you just wear that one? I thought, okay, because this is genuinely me. Now, and here we are. Oh my God, isn't this setting gorgeous? And I want to do a shout out and thank my friend Lisa and Emily for the opportunity to be here and shoot in this location. I just love it out here. It's very peaceful. So thank you, Lisa and Emily, for allowing me to be here. So, try, can't, should, have to. Another one is the what if. Oh, what if I do it and it doesn't work out? What if I ask him out and he says no? What if I ask my boss for a raise and they say no? So what if, again, turns a hurdle into a wall. There's so many of them out there. In my book, I list a lot of the other obstacle words and phrases that tend to get in our way. But for the purposes of this, I think I made my point. So I just want to give you that part of it. So now that we've looked at the difference between ego and self-esteem, and we've defined that, and now we've looked at the obstacles that stand in our way, now I want to get to the goodies. I want to get to the part to give you the tools that you need to raise your self-esteem and move down that continuum. Because my whole point of this is that it doesn't really matter where you are on the continuum. What matters more is which direction you're pointed in. Are you doing things today that are reinforcing your ego, or are you doing things today that are going to build your self-esteem? And building self-esteem is hard. It is so much easier to give in to ego and just let it be ego. Building self-esteem, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that this is an easy thing to do. It's not. It takes work. It's difficult. But if you do this, you're going to feel so much better. And it's kind of like starting a workout routine or starting to run. When you first start, it's really hard to do. You know, I remember I wanted to do a 5K years ago. I wanted to do a 5K. And I realized that I've never run before. So what's the first thing I need to do? Go get a good pair of running shoes. So I did. And then I drove my car around my neighborhood and I figured out what a mile was. And then I put on my running shoes and off I went. And I attempted to run an entire mile. That was my plan. And I think I made it like 2 blocks. I was exhausted. So I thought, okay, but I am going to do the mile. So I walked until I felt better, and then I ran. And then when I got tired, I walked. And then when I felt better, I ran. And I did that for the entire mile. And I called it my WOG. It was like a walk-jog combination type thing. And I didn't like it, and I was sore, and I drank a lot of water the next day and that evening. And then the next day, I went back for my WOG, and I did it like 4 times a week. And over the period of a couple weeks, I found that I was jogging more than I was walking. So I would still jog until I was tired, and then walk, and then jog some more, and then walk. And after a month, I was able to do the entire mile. So building self-esteem is the same way. It's not just going to happen. It's not like I'm going to run a 5K and go and run 3.5 miles. It does not work that way. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. So it's simple, but it's not easy. So I want to let you know that it's going to take some work on your part in order to do it, and you're going to want to give up. Don't give up. It's worth it once you really grasp it, because once I was into running on a regular basis, then I could do it. And I could run a 5K with no problem. So once I got into the mode of doing this on a regular basis, my body and my mind got used to it. And then it got to a point where I started looking forward to my runs. So as you build self-esteem, after a while, it will become easier for you to do. But at the beginning, it's difficult. It just is. I wish there was another way, but it's not. So let's get into how to build self-esteem and the tools that you need in order to build it. Okay, and here's how simple it is. I separate our self into 4 different parts. We have the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And that's who we are, 4 parts. So my theory is that if we exercise and nourish the 4 parts of self on a regular basis, we will feel better about who we are and raise our self-esteem. It's that simple, but it's not easy. So let me break down all 4 parts, and I want to talk about these. And when I talk about exercising and nourishing the mental self, what does that actually mean? So I want to talk about that, but I want to start first with the physical, because that's the easiest one to define. You know, we talk about it a lot. How do we nourish and exercise our physical self? How do we nourish our physical self? We do that through food, what we put in our body, food and liquid, what's going into our body. And depending on the types of food and liquid we put in our body, we're going to be healthier or not as healthy, right? I mean, that's a given. You know, if I start my day with 3 cups of coffee and a jelly donut, and that's my breakfast, and then I go to work and I'm working, and then I'm kind of feeling a little crash, so I have some Skittles to kind of get me through to lunch, and then I get to lunch, and you know, I just go out and I get a burger and a fries and a milkshake, and then I go back to work, and then in the afternoon, I have a Snickers bar, because don't we hear a Snickers bar and a 5-hour energy, and that's going to get me through the rest of my day. And then I get to my evening, and don't have a lot of energy, so I just have a few beers and throw something in the microwave. I mean, I don't have a few beers, but you know what I'm talking about. So then you just choke something down from the microwave, and that's how you've nourished your physical self. And you wonder why you have no energy during the day, why you're not sleeping well, why you're more irritable. It's because you're not nourishing your body, which is your body's engine. I know people that take better care of their cars than they take care of their bodies. And now it's time to turn that around and nourish your body in a healthy way. Now again, you know, I'm not a big fan of setting all the, 10 different things that we're going to do different, and I'm going to eat better and exercise and sleep better, and I'm going to do this and that. You know, sometimes that can be such a setup that we want to change 5 things that when one of them doesn't go well, we throw out all 5. So I'm suggesting just start with 1. You know, in the morning, maybe have some toast with peanut butter, or a waffle with peanut butter and banana on it, or a bowl of oatmeal, or a healthier type of cereal, not Frosted Flakes. Maybe go towards something that's, has a bit of health benefit to it, some granola, throw some strawberries and banana in there, have a morning smoothie. There are a lot of ways to start your day with a healthy breakfast. Then you get to lunch, turkey sandwich or a salad or something else. Afternoon, have a handful of peanuts. I've learned that just a little bit of fats in your afternoon snack tends to fill up your body more. So I'll usually take one of those little Dixie cups and I'll fill it with a nut mixture that I make, and I choke that down. And that's my snack in the afternoon, and I'm good until dinner. And then dinner, making sure you have a good variety of proteins and carbs and starches and whatever you want. But start to make them a little healthier. Switch from white rice to brown rice. Rather than chips, have carrots. For breakfast, just changing it up a little bit. Getting rid of energy drinks. They are horrible for your body. If you can get rid of those and replace energy drinks with water, you're going to feel a lot better. And speaking of water, that's the number one thing to put into your body. If you drink a lot of water during the day, your body's going to be hydrated, you're going to feel better, you're going to have a lot more energy. So making little changes throughout your day is going to make all the difference in the world. And if you can make some little changes along the way, again, just run one block and then walk, and then run one block and then walk. So little changes along the way, that you can do. So another theory that I want to throw out here, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I figured why not talk about it since I just thought about it, is my theory of the energy ball. I believe that we all have this energy ball inside of us, and sometimes that energy ball feels like it's the size of a ping pong ball. Sometimes it feels like a beach ball. And we have all the energy in the world. And the whole goal of building self-esteem is that you have that beach ball every single day. Okay, not every day. 90% of the time. Let's be realistic here. But the thing is, we give control of our energy ball to all these external forces. But when we take charge of our energy ball, and if you exercise and nourish the 4 parts of self in a healthy way on a regular basis, your energy ball is going to be a lot bigger. I knew that I was going to do this presentation here today. So I've been preparing for the last 48 hours. I'm drinking more water. I'm making sure I take my vitamins. I have a little extra green powder in my morning smoothie. I made sure that I kept stress level down. And I did things that were going to give me a lot of energy so I could be here today giving you 100% of what I have. Because you deserve that. And I want to show you and give you ways that you can do this in your own life. And if you exercise and nourish yourself on a regular basis in a healthy way, your energy ball will get bigger. So, one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I'll talk about this more when I get to the emotional section, but there are people out there who don't have their own energy, so they look to other people for their energy. Like these people in your life that, hey, can I just talk to you about my problem? It's like, yeah, okay. And it's the same problem that they've had for the last 6 months, and they're always talking about the same thing, and they talk to you because they know that you're going to help them. And after a half an hour of talking to them, they're like, oh my God, thank you for talking to me. I feel so much better. And you're like, oh, sure, no problem. That's what friends are for. And they have now taken your energy ball is now smaller, and theirs is bigger. I call them energy vampires, the ones that just suck the energy right out of you. And what I'm going to suggest to you is something that's difficult, but very important in building self-esteem, is being able to say no. No, I'm not going to listen to you because you've been dealing with the same situation for the last 6 months and you're not willing to do anything different. I will tell you, as your friend, when you're willing to do something different, I am there for you 100%. I will support you in making a change. But if you just want to stay here, I'm sorry, there's nothing more that I can do for you. So we have to watch out for those people that are draining our energy. Self-esteem says that you have your boundaries, and it's like, no, I'm not going to let anyone do anything where I feel uncomfortable doing it. So it's okay to do that. I have attempted pretty much every form of exercise there is. I've played tennis, I've golfed, I've gone to the gym, I've gotten personal trainers, I've been running, I've been swimming, I bought a bike that I used 3 times and it was so uncomfortable I didn't do it again. So I attempted so many ways to exercise because I knew that was important. And then a couple years ago, I was driving through this shopping center and I saw this thing called 9 Round, and I was like, what is that? And I went in and I said, hey, what's this about? They said, well, it's a kickboxing class and every day it's different and there are no start times because I'm notoriously late. And I really like the feel of it. I said, well, I'll give it a shot. They said, well, your first one is free. And I went in to go do my first 9 Round workout, and it's 9 Round. God, I feel like I'm a 9 Round commercial doing this. But I love 9 Round, and I've been doing this now consistently for about 2.5 years. And in that time, I am healthier than I've ever been in my life. My birthday was just last month, and they have you do a burpee for every year as your birthday burpees. And I did 60 burpees, and I was able to do it. I was exhausted afterwards, but I was able to do it. In the time I've been doing 9 Round, I mean, the external part, I've lost 20 pounds, 4 inches in my waist, but the best part of it, I'm healthier than I've ever been. I can walk up flights of stairs without huffing and puffing, and I feel better than I've ever felt. And I love the way that I feel after I do a 9 Round workout. So I found something that works for me. And what I want for you is to find what works for you. If it's working out in a gym, great. If it's running, awesome. If it's tennis or golf or yoga or whatever it is that you want to do, even if it's walking, anything, as long as you're moving your body, that's exercise. So what I'm talking about is exercising on a regular basis is going to help you feel better about who you are. And if we nourish and exercise our physical self in a healthy way on a regular basis, we will raise our self-esteem. It's that simple. You can do this. Any little thing helps. So, now we've talked about the physical. And again, any questions, you want to talk about this more, shoot me an email. Happy to answer the email and give you some specifics for you. Or once things open back up, I'm going to start to do workshops. If you sign up on my website, I'll let you know when we're going to have workshops coming up, because we're going to do it here in Orlando, and I want to do like some workshop time and then hopefully do some playtime at Disney, which I think would be a really fun weekend. So we'll see how that turns out. But for now, it's about you doing these things to raise your self-esteem so you feel better about who you are, and that's the physical part. Now, let's move on. Oh, no, I want to make one more point here. And I want to come back to this later. If I said to you, if you said to me, well, I love running. Running is my favorite way to exercise. And I said, what? If you're running, you're not really exercising. You need to do 9 Round like me. And if you're not doing 9 Round, you're not really exercising. How does that sound? Pretty ridiculous, right? Because it's whatever works for you. Running or swimming or biking or canoeing or whatever you want to, whatever works for you, that is your form of exercise, and it's okay. So I want to come back to this a little later and draw an analogy. So this is how we exercise and nourish our physical self. Now let's go to mental. How do we nourish and exercise the mental part of who we are? And there are a lot of ways to do that. We can do that through reading books. We can do it by playing crossword puzzles or other strategy games or word games or something that makes us think. You know, when I talk to college students, you know, by going to class and studying and doing papers, that's a way to exercise and nourish your mental self. Watching documentaries, opening your mind to new things is a way to exercise and nourish the mental. Again, also taking a nap, resting. We need to nourish our mental self sometimes by taking a break and just kind of being chill, sitting out by the side of a lake and just doing absolutely nothing. Great way to nourish the mental self. So look for things that work for you. Now, I know for me, I found that when I go do my workouts, that's good for me mentally as well as physically, because I clear my mind when I'm doing my workouts. In fact, when I do my 9 Round workouts, it's good for my physical, mental, and emotional. So if you can find something that'll hit 3 out of the 4, and you do that right in the morning, you've just knocked out 3 of the 4 before you've even gone to work. Or you do it at the end of the day. It doesn't matter when you do it, but every day to do something good for yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if you do that, you will raise your self-esteem. You know, I have not met anybody yet. I've done this talk thousands of times, and I have never had someone come to me and say, Randy, I've done those 4 things consistently for the last 3 months, and my self-esteem is the same as it was before. It has not happened. So it's not going to happen for you either. So find ways that you can exercise and nourish your mental self too. Okay, let's move on to the most difficult. Let's move on to the emotional. Exercise and nourish your emotional self. This is hard because I believe that we live in a society of emotional anorexics. We are not allowed to have our feelings. We're taught from a very young age how to shut our feelings down and deny that they even exist. We're told that feelings are bad. From the time I was a little boy, I was hearing from all of society, big boys don't cry. I was not allowed to have my sadness. I was not allowed to have my hurt. They just did not exist. I was 7 years old running across the playground and I tripped and I fell. And all of a sudden I looked down and my pants are torn and there's red stuff coming out of my knee. And I go, ah! And what do the kids in the playground do? Ah, you sissy, you're a girl. You cry like a girl. So what do? Shut down my sadness. No more sadness, no more hurt. And I keep that inside. Now, one of the saddest parts about that is that I'm a very sensitive person. And when I started to explore my feelings, I thought if I finally let these feelings out, they're going to completely overwhelm me. And I'm not going to find my way back to me. I'm going to be like this blithering idiot for the rest of my life. And you know what? It didn't happen. I cried, and I let myself cry, and it was okay. But let me tell you what happens when we don't have our sadness and we don't have our hurt. Here's what us guys do. We don't have our hurt. We don't have our sadness. So someone says something that hurts my feelings. What do I say to them? Do I go up to them and say, hey man, what you said really hurt my feelings, and I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't talk to me that way anymore, right? No way. So what do? Man, you piss me off. You say that again, I'm gonna take you out. And what us men do is we take our sadness and we take our hurt and we turn it sideways and it comes out as anger. Look at all the anger we have in our world today. Most of it comes from the fact that we feel hurt, our feelings are hurt, we're feeling sad about something, we feel threatened by something, and we turn it into anger. If we could just have our hurt and have our sadness and be able to talk to each other from that place, think about how much better off this world would be. And ladies, you didn't get away any easier. You were taught to deny your feelings too. I know a lot of women that were raised with this idea that you're not allowed to have your anger. That's not ladylike. You keep that inside, smile, be cute. So ladies aren't allowed to have their anger. So what I find a lot of women do is they turn their anger sideways and it comes out as sadness. I know a lot of women that when they feel emotional, they start crying. Oh my God, you really made me mad. Yeah, I'm so mad at you. It's like, well, if you're mad, why are you crying? Why are you showing signs of sadness when you're saying you're angry? It's okay to have your anger. It's okay. Anger is a human dignity. Anger is a way of saying, no, it's not okay for you to talk to me that way. Finally, we're at a time in our society where it's like, no, it is not okay for you to touch me that way. No, it's not okay. No. Now, I am not advocating for violence. I am advocating for the feeling of anger, not the action of violence. I don't think violence is necessary in any situation, but I am advocating for getting in touch with your feelings and knowing your emotional self and nourishing your emotional self, exercising your emotional self on a regular basis. And at the beginning, it's going to be difficult. You tell an anorexic it's time to start eating, and that sends all kinds of panic. So for me, when I started getting in touch with my feelings again, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. So there are ways to exercise and nourish your emotional self. The easiest one that I have people start with is music. Listening to music. Music is a beautiful way to kind of get your feelings out. You know how there are certain songs you listen to when you're really happy? Songs you listen to when you're feeling kind of uptight? Songs that you listen to when you're feeling really sad? So use that as a way to identify the feelings that are coming up. And don't be afraid of them when they start to come up. Feelings are not bad. Feelings are a quarter of who you are. You could be doing great with your physical, your mental, and your spiritual, but if you don't have that emotional self, the best you can do is 75%. And that's a C. And I want better than that for you. So start to get in touch. I remember when I started getting in touch with my feelings, it was my therapist, Charlie, who said, it's time to start getting in touch with your feelings. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? He said, I want you to journal. I'm like, journal? I'm not going to journal. Journaling is for girls. And he laughed. He goes, no, journaling is for anyone who wants to feel better about who they are. I'm like, dude, don't make me do this. He goes, yeah, I want you to journal every day. I don't care how much you write. I don't care what you write, but do it every day for 2 weeks and let's see what happens. I'm like, dude, whatever. And I went home, and that night it's like, okay, I have to journal. And back then I have to. So I got out a notebook from an old school class, and I stared at the blank paper for about 10 minutes. It's like, what do I write? I don't know what to write. Oh, he said it doesn't matter what I write or how much I write. This is easy. I don't know what to write. Close the book. I was done. Next day I came back. This is going to be a piece of cake. I still don't know what to write. And I put it down. Next day, I still don't know what to write. And I put it down. Next day, I still don't know what to write. And I'm really pissed off at Charlie for making me do this. Put it down. Pick it up the next day. Still pissed off that I have to do this. I don't see what the point is. I mean, like, I'm really going to get something out of this. But, you know, today at school, I was really feeling angry about blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, all this stuff started to come out. And I started to look forward to coming home and journaling. And I lived by myself at the time, so I could put my journal down, and I knew that it was safe. But every day I would sit down and I would journal, and I started to put the date of the journal entries down there. Because I don't know why at the time, but I just started doing that. And I was journaling every day for probably 3 to 5 years. I don't know exactly how many. And then I stopped for a while, and now I do it every now and then when I really need to journal. I'll get it out. Because sometimes when all these thoughts and feelings are inside my head and inside my body, it just helps to get them out. So journaling is a great way for me to do that. And I remember a few years ago, I was moving, and I had this duffel bag. And I remember in the past, I just moved the duffel bag. Didn't know what was in it, just moved it. And this one time, I took it out of the top shelf of my closet. I thought, I wonder what's in here. And I opened it up, and it was all my old journals. And all these old, and songs that I wrote, and poems that I wrote, and all these things that I didn't even know existed. And I'm reading these stories. I wrote a story one time about a blue-haired boy who was born into a green-haired world. And he always felt different from everybody else, and he never felt like he fit in. And I'm reading these stories, and I'm crying, and my poems and songs. Oh my God, it was so incredible. And then I found this one journal entry about, I can't believe Miriam broke up with me, and I'll never find love again, and my heart is broken, and I don't understand, and we were so good together. And I wrote this whole thing, and oh my God, it was so sad, and I'm crying as I'm reading this. I'm like, oh man, that really hurt. And I closed and I put down the thing. And I remember thinking, who's Miriam? Oh my God, what color hair does she have? How tall? I don't even remember. So to this day, I have no idea who Miriam is. I could walk down the street one day and a woman could pass me. She's like, hey Randy, remember me? I'm Miriam. I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't. But at that moment, I was so heartbroken. I'm never gonna find love again. So be careful when you get into these situations where you feel like, oh, this is the end. I'll never find it. Oh, this is never, it doesn't work that way. Oh, my business fails. I'm never going to have it. No. I got fired from my job delivering pizza. Oh, I'll never find anything else. You never know where life is going to take you. One end point is just another beginning point. There are no absolutes here. Things happen and we learn from them and then we move on. So getting in touch with your emotional self is going to be a really important part to gaining your self-esteem. Today, I know my feelings. I know the entire breadth of my feelings. You know, one of the things that I also did as a visualization, this might help you too. There's an old movie with Sally Field in it called Sybil, and she had 23 different personalities. And it's all about her getting in touch with these different personalities. And when I started to get in touch with my emotional self, I kind of took a part of that Sybil movie, because at the end of the movie, she has these 23 people out in this park, and each one is her different personality, and she's able to go to each one and see each one of them. So what I did, I pictured all of my feelings, like sad Randy was this little boy who just sat in the corner and he's just crying. And I went up to him, and I'm like, hey, can I just sit here with you? I didn't try to fix him. I didn't want to make things better right away. I just sat with him. And after a while I said, what's making you so sad? He said, everything. And I just sat with him and let him cry, and I held him as he was crying. And I got in touch with my sadness. And then there was scared Randy, and I went up and talked to scared Randy, and hurt Randy, and happy Randy. Oh, you wouldn't believe happy Randy. We had so much fun together. And I got to know my disappointment and my frustration and all the different feelings. And as I got to know them, they became less scary and they became less intimidating. And I started to see how they were manifesting themselves in my life and what would trigger them and how to make them more manageable. And today I love my feelings. And I really feel that my emotional self is one of my strongest. And I used to think that my feelings made me weak. Today I know my feelings make me strong. And because I have high self-esteem now, you can't shake me. I'm gonna feel good about me no matter what's going on around me. You know, I say this a lot, that self-esteem, it's like when we watch the weather in certain areas and we see a tornado rips through an area and we see it's completely devastated, except there's this one house right in the middle that's standing firm. That's self-esteem. When we have high self-esteem, the storm can be swirling all around us, but we're solid with who we are. And that's the whole purpose of this, to get you to the point where you're solid in the storm. So let's go on and talk about spiritual, exercising and nourishing the spiritual part of self. Now, one of the things that I do is I separate spiritual from religious. Because sometimes I think religion can separate people, spirituality brings people together. Now, if you find your spirituality through your religion, that's awesome. I'm not saying throw away religion. I am not saying that at all. But one of the things I have found in the difference here is that sometimes religion can separate more than bring together. Spirituality is about finding how we're connected. Religion sometimes separates. No, mine is the way. No, this is the way. No, that's the way. And I find that religion is something that's created by others that we take into ourselves. Whereas spirituality is something that is created within ourselves that we can then take out to others. So that's the difference that I want to draw here. And I want to go back to that earlier analogy when I was talking about physical and exercising the physical self. When I talked about, well, I do 9 round. If you really want to exercise, you have to do 9 round. If you're only running, you're not really exercising. And how many people do that with religion? If you don't believe my way, then you're not really finding God or whatever it is that you're finding. You have to do it my way because that's the only way. To me, that's ridiculous. I believe, and this is an old Native American saying, there is one light, but many lampshades. And if you found a lampshade that works for you, that's awesome. But that doesn't mean that everybody else is wrong. You know, I mean, there are Muslims and Jews and Christians and Hindus and Sikh religion. I mean, there's so many different religions out there. Find your own way to your spirit. And spirituality doesn't always come in the form of religion. I remember when I first started my practice of spirituality, people were saying, you know, you have to find God. And I'm like, I have a problem with this whole God thing. Can we talk about something else? And I had people that said, absolutely. It can be nature. It can be the ocean. It can be trees. It can be the force. It can be the universe. Whatever you want to call it, there's something greater than you out there. That's what I'm asking you to tap into. Is something greater than you, whatever that is. And I believe that spirituality is out there, and it's kind of like an outlet in the wall. Just on its own, it does nothing at all. But once we learn how to tap into it, we have all the energy we need. So that's what I'm talking about here. Tapping into that spiritual energy, no matter where you get it, and exercising it and nourishing it. And as you nourish and exercise, it makes your energy ball huge. So let's talk about some things that you can do to exercise and nourish the spiritual self. You can read the Bible, or the Quran, or the Torah, or any other spiritual books that you have around you. You can meditate, prayer, sitting in nature, you know, finding a lake or a forest or something where you can walk through it. You know, your physical can also be your spiritual. So actually, for people who like to hike in nature, that could be your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual right there. Just going for your hike and boom, you've knocked that all forth. But for the spiritual is finding some way to find something bigger than you and tapping into that energy source. And I caution you to judge other people by their way of finding their spirit. Because there's no right or wrong way. I believe, now I've come to terms with the whole God concept, and it's easier just to use that term. It's more universal. But my definition of God goes beyond like this being in heaven or whatever it is. It's this energy that's around us. That's what I like to tap into. Wayne Dyer talks about it's the space in between the space. That's the spiritual. And I love tapping into that, and I love finding how other people find their way to God and find their way to this. Because I believe that God is so powerful, this source is so powerful, that if it only wanted one way to find it, we'd only have one way to find it. But instead, it says, I don't care how you find me, as long as you do. So find a way to tap into your spiritual self, no matter where that is. For me, I got sober back in San Diego, so the ocean was my higher power for a long time. Because I had a mentor in my life who said, the ocean was there long before you were here, and it's going to be here long after you're gone. It is definitely a power greater than you. And he was absolutely right. So whenever I would get down, whenever I'd feel like life was getting to be too much, I'd go to the beach and I'd just sit there and I'd watch the waves come in and the waves go out. And it was so peaceful, and I'd leave feeling better. So find ways to exercise and nourish your emotional self. Meditation is a great tool. And me, being someone with ADD and anxiety, it was really hard to learn how to meditate. And even today, there are times where I can only do it for like 2 minutes. But I'll sit there for 15, and maybe I'll have 2 minutes of those 15 to have good quality meditation time. But the point is, I'm doing it. And then when I get into a practice of it, those 2 minutes turn to 5 minutes, and then 8 minutes. So again, practice, practice, practice. Self-esteem is not something that just happens. It's not a switch that's flipped, and all of a sudden, boom, I have higher self-esteem. It's a process that takes time. And that reminds me of a story. And the story is the story of the road to Hana. There is a road on the island of Maui and a town called Hana. And a lot of tourists here, when you go to Maui, you have to go to Hana. So they get in their little rent-a-cars and off to Hana they go. And what they don't tell you is that the road to Hana is about 50 miles long, but it's 1.5 lanes wide for two-way traffic. And on one side is a 200-foot cliff down to the ocean. And on the other side is a jungle and a cliff in some places. So it's a pretty treacherous road. In fact, it's listed as one of the 10 most dangerous roads in the world. So these tourists get in their rent-a-cars and off to Hana they go. And they also don't tell you that there are 622 hairpin turns on the road to Hana. But they get in their rent-a-cars and off they go. And they're barely missing cars coming the other way, and they're zipping around the corners, and finally 2 hours later you get to Hana, and in Hana there's a general store where you can buy sandwiches and a t-shirt that says I survived the road to Hana. There's a gas station, and there's a hotel that has about 20 rooms. And that's it. That's Hana. And these tourists get there like, are you kidding me? I wasted a day of my Hawaiian vacation and came out here because people told me to come here, and all I get is a sandwich and a t-shirt, and they're pissed. And all the way back, they're talking about, oh, such a waste of time. And they tell all their friends, don't even bother going to Hana. That was a total waste of my time. But see, those of us who know the road to Hana, it's also listed as one of the top 5 most beautiful roads in the world. Because every time you turn one of those corners, you have a 200-foot view down to the ocean. And that water is bluer than you could ever imagine it would be. And sometimes you can see dolphins or whales playing in the water. And you look up into the jungle on the other side, sometimes you can see waterfalls coming down and so many shades of green, so beautiful. And you make your way to Hana, and you take your time and you get there and you get a sandwich, and you either go up on the hill and look out at this amazing view, or you go down to the black sand beach and it's so gorgeous. Or you can go a little bit farther and go to the 7 sacred pools, which is a waterfall into a lagoon, into another waterfall, into another lagoon, all the way down 7 times, all the way to the ocean. It is so beautiful. And then you get to do the whole ride back again. But so many people get caught up in, I gotta get to Hana, that they forget to enjoy the road along the way. And my hope for you here is that you enjoy your road. and you put together some tools that you're going to be able to use that are going to help you to enjoy life more and get rid of the self-criticism. Start treating yourself like your own best friend rather than your own worst enemy. Start looking at where you are on this continuum. Get rid of those obstacle words and phrases. Start looking at how you can exercise and nourish the 4 parts of self. You know, it's funny, when I was putting this together, people are like, oh, you should put together a workbook and sell that with the program. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be one of those guys. That's fine if they do that, but that's not my style. You know what the workbook is? Get out a piece of paper and write a line on that piece of paper with ego on one side, self-esteem on the other, and take a look at where you are on that continuum. And be honest about it. You don't even have to put the mark down that someone else might see and go, oh no, you're more over that way. Don't, just look and say, where am I? And then make that decision within yourself. I want to move forward. I want to go towards self-esteem. Okay, what are my obstacle words and phrases? And write them down. And write down how you use them. And then if there are people in your life who are supportive of you and are gonna help you on this path, to say, hey, can you let me know if you hear me use any of these words? And hopefully it'll be, hey, just want you to know you just said try. Rather than, you just said try. Again, find people that are gonna be supportive in helping you to grow through this. I was just thinking maybe we could do like Zoom meetings or something like that, or something where we can all get together and talk about how to support each other on our path. Ooh, maybe we could do that. If you want to do that, shoot me an email. If I get enough people who want to, then we can make that happen. So part 2 is to write down what your obstacle words and phrases are. And then the part 3, write down physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And then put down some things that you can do, little changes that you can make, ways that you can exercise that you're going to feel good about. And just start doing it like 2-3 times a week. I'm not saying 5 times a week and you got to do it for a minimum of an hour. No. Even if, sometimes I'm not physically 100% and I'll go to 9 round and they're like, okay, now I want you to do 20 burpees. And I'm like, I think I'll do 3. Because for me, I win when I just walk through the door. I don't have to do all 9 rounds perfectly. I don't have to do the whole thing. If I'm not feeling up to it, I might just kind of, jab, cross, hook. Maybe I'll just jab. Because it doesn't matter. It's all about just doing the best I can. And sometimes the best I can is just walking through the door. So be the best you can be. And as you do this journey, like I did my 5K, start slow and build your way up. Now, in that analogy, I can run a marathon easily. Now, can I really run a marathon? No. But from a self-esteem perspective, yeah, I can do a marathon. And nothing I do is rocket science. Nothing that I'm talking about here is only kept for a select few. Anybody can do it. Anybody. Yes, you can. And if there's anything I can do to support you, I am happy to do that. So feel free to shoot me an email and I will answer you when I have time to do that. And right now I have a lot of time. So I want to close this with my favorite story, and I tell this story a lot when I do my presentations. And I want to do it for you here today. And I just love what this is all about, and I love the experience too. So now it's probably been 30 years since I had this experience. We were over in Hawaii, and I'm a scuba diver. I said that before. And I told my parents, hey, I signed up. I'm going to go for a scuba dive tomorrow. They're like, all right, cool. And I got in the car, and I was driving to Lahaina, where the boat was. And I noticed when I looked at the water, the ocean was flat, like a pool. I mean, there was no movement on the water at all. Blew me away. I've never seen that before. And I got to the boat, and I parked, and I got on the boat, and the crew was like really excited. And I was like, dude, what's going on? They're like, oh man, we have conditions that we only get like 3 or 4 times a year. So I said, okay, listen up everybody. We get to go somewhere that we don't normally get to go to because of the conditions today. So we have our choice of 3 different dive sites. Whichever one wins, that's where we're gonna go. The 3 are, I don't remember what they said. I don't remember what they said, or Turtletown. I was like, oh, Turtletown. They said, okay, who wants to go to the first one? No one raised their hand. Who wants to go to the second one? No one raised their hands. Who wants to go to Turtletown? And all of us raised our hands. They were like, all right, off to Turtletown we go. and we got out of the harbor and we went over to Turtle Town. Now, when you're on those boats, most of the time you're like, boom, boom, boom. But we just cruised along. And half an hour later, we were at Turtle Town, dropped anchor. And I remember I looked over the side of the boat. When he dropped the anchor, I could see it go all the way down, probably, 40 feet, and hit the bottom of hit the ground. It was like this sand mound came up from where the anchor hit. I was like, okay, this is really cool. I can see the coral and the fish from the boat. Then it's okay, get a dive buddy, put on your equipment. So I said to this guy, hey man, you want to be my dive buddy? He's like, yeah, let's go. We put on our equipment, we got in the water, and usually when you get in the water, there's like that first blast of cold that's like, and then your body attunes to it and then you're okay. Got in the water and I was ready for it. The water was warm. I mean, it was probably like 80 degrees. It was crazy conditions. And I noticed I could see so far we probably had 200-foot visibility that day, which means that you could be 200 feet away, hold up two fingers, and I could tell that you were holding up two fingers. It was insane how clear the water was and how warm. And it was just, I could see the fish everywhere. And we go down and we're looking around, and all of a sudden I see this little turtle bopping by, and I looked and there were turtles everywhere. It was so cool. I'd never seen a turtle before. And then we're swimming around, and all of a sudden I look in this sandy cove, and at first I thought it was a boulder that was sitting in the cove, but I noticed it was a turtle, huge, grandfather turtle or grandmother turtle. I don't know. I couldn't tell. And I swam over to him, and I'm probably 10 feet away, and I'm just kind of checking him out. And he was so cool, just perched in the sand. His eyes were closed, and it was almost like he was meditating. And he opened his eyes, and he looked over at me, and he looked back, and he lifted himself off of the sand, these big, giant flippers, and he started swimming. It was one of the most beautiful, most graceful things I've ever seen in my life. And I started swimming next to him, parallel to him. And then I kept swimming closer and closer until I can reach out and pet his shell. Now, I promised someone who's from the island of Hawaii, and she heard me tell this story, and she came up to me afterwards, and I promised her that every time I did this story, I would tell this part of it. I did not know at that time that it's illegal to touch a Hawaiian sea turtle. I did not know that. If I would have known, I would not have touched that turtle. But I didn't know. So if you're thinking, ooh, I want to go do this, no touching Hawaiian sea turtles. I have not touched one since. So I was petting his shell, and he let me pet his shell. I was like, okay, this is really cool. And I thought, okay, let me see if I could take this a step farther. And I kind of swam up over his back and held onto his shell, like right behind his neck. And I held on, and I'm laying across his back, and he's moving those big, powerful flippers, and I'm just holding on to him. And I'm riding this turtle through the ocean. And we're just cruising along. And I remember I didn't even have to kick my legs. He was so big, he could carry my weight. And he's moving those flippers, and I would close my eyes, and I just feel as we move through the ocean. And I'm looking around just thinking, oh my God, this is one of the most incredible experiences of my entire life. And then all of a sudden, it occurred to me, how long have I been riding this turtle? Oh my God, where's my dive buddy? How deep are we? I had no idea, because have you ever been so into an experience that you lose all track of everything else around you? Yeah, well, that's not good when you're scuba diving. I mean, at that moment, my dive buddy was a turtle, so that's not good. And I got my bearings, I looked up, I thought, okay, we're still like 30, 40 feet underneath, so even if I run out of air now, I can still make it to the surface, because I don't know how much air I have left in my tank. I don't know how long we've been out here. And then I thought, oh man, where's the boat? And I kind of got my bearings. Okay, we've been going in a straight line. We were there, got him. We're swimming away from the boat. Okay, we've been going for a while. This is going to be a long swim back. And then I thought, oh, I know. I'm going to turn the turtle around and let him take me back to the boat. Oh, wait until they get a load of me coming back to the boat riding this turtle, right? How cool am I going to look? I'm going to be like, hey, everybody, what's up? They're going to go, oh, man, that guy is so cool riding that turtle. Ego, right? Wait till they get a load of me. That is pure ego. But I thought, okay, I'm going to turn this turtle around, and he's going to take me back there, because I don't want to do all that work going back there. So I thought, okay, how am I going to... Now, the whole time I'm having this conversation with myself, he's still swimming. We're still going farther away from the boat. It's like, okay, I'm gonna turn the turtle around. And I thought, if I just pull on his shell a little bit this way, you'll know, let's turn. And then when we get all the way around, I'll just kind of straighten him out and then we'll go to the boat. I know, it made sense at the time. So I pull on his shell a little bit. I was like, okay, let's turn. And he stopped. And I thought, oh good, he's gonna turn. And I did another little, just, nothing, it didn't hurt him, but just another, come on, let's go this way. And he ducked down and bolted left. He bolted. There was nothing I could do to stop him or hold on to him. He was gone, because there was algae there too. So when he took off, there was nothing I could do to stop him. And I realized he let me ride him. He allowed me to have that experience. Still to this day, one of the top 10 experiences of my entire life. He let me have that experience. Because at any moment, he could have taken off. He let me have that experience. And when did I lose that experience? When ego got in the way. It wasn't, hey, turtle, thank you for the ride, and grateful, and move on, and swim back. It was, I'm going to let him do the work. Wait until they get a load of me. So when my ego got in the way, that's when I lost the experience. So I've learned, and one of my #1 mottos in life, don't turn the turtle. Don't turn the turtle. Life gives you this path. Hold on, enjoy the ride, look at the scenery around you, enjoy the journey along the way, because ego will get in your way and stop most of the good experiences that you have. So I hope you got something out of this. It was an honor for me to be here today doing this. This is just so mind-blowing that I get to do these kind of things now, and a great opportunity with the situation that we're dealing with right now, that I get to be here doing this. And I hope that you got something out of it. Definitely feel free to give me any feedback that you want, good, bad, or ugly. I'm okay with all of it. And if you have any questions or I can help you with any of this, and please let me know when I get to do presentations again in person. And if you want to come to Orlando and be a part of one of my live workshops, I would love to have you there. Mention that you saw me here, and hopefully we'll see each other down the road. And I wish you all the joy and happiness in the world. You deserve it. So let's stay out of our own way. Let's become our own best friend, and let's make this thing happen. So thank you. I wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again.